Seat. Well, man, we are so glad that you are with us today on this fifth Sunday family gathering. We've been doing these for about a couple years now, and it seems every once in a while we kind of have a different one. We've had a prayer service where we all gathered and did different elements of prayer together, and we're going to be doing that again. And when we gathered at one point, we did a youth and kids service, and we had everything focused on what we're doing with our children and our student ministry. And so today, what we're going to do that's a little different is we're actually going to be having a Q&A panel with our elders and pastors talking about this wonderful, amazing thing that God created called marriage. And so we're going to be up on stage, and I've got a list of questions that our elders and pastors formulated to really talk about marriage and talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, all the things, and to really get into the lives of who we are, and as well as an opportunity to hopefully encourage you in where you're at, whether you are in the current season of marriage and you've been married 10 years, or maybe you've been married and you're 40, 50 years down the road. Maybe you're preparing for marriage. Maybe you've been married at one time, and regardless of where you are today, our hope is that today would be encouraging to you, and today would be an opportunity for you to get to know the elders and pastors a little bit more. In fact, two of the families that will be on stage are our candidates that we're going to be confirming on April 13th, and that is the Johnson family and the Cookston family. So at this moment, would you please do me a favor and give them a hand and welcome up our elders and pastors and their wife. Come on up, guys. We decided to do the, if you ever seen the end, wrap up to a series, and then they're interviewing all the people and we staggered them. So we have the wives down at the front, so they get the comfy seats, and all the men, they got to bear the burden for 35 minutes of sitting on some hard stools, so they're going to do great back there. Be sure you sit with your spouse. That might be a different conversation. You're like, wait, hold on a second. I'm going to go ahead and give this one to you right here, and then I'll give this one to you right here, and kind of in the middle. And then what we'll do is we have a different set of questions, and one of our elders and their wife they've been assigned some different questions just so we're not here for 3 hours and you're like, I'm about to end this and go get some food. So let's do this first. Let's have everyone just really quickly, the husband can do it, the wife can do it. I imagine there's going to be a lot of you going like this with the mic, so I just get it. Let's start down the row, and let's just say you and your wife's name or you and your husband's name, and then how long you've been married. So this is my bride, Crystal Ann. Woohoo! I'm very proud to be married to her. This October will be 15 years, so we're still newlyweds. So anyways, we'll go ahead and pass the mic down and have everyone introduce themselves. How long have you been married?
Tim and Anna Barden, we've just celebrated our 45th.
Yeah, 45! Yes!
We are Jared and Ashley Johnson. We will be at 10 years here in August.
Yeah!
James and Christy, we will celebrate our 32nd anniversary in June.
Very cool, very cool. Make one of the ladies die, yeah!
Mike and Kathy Brazil, and we will celebrate our 47th in July.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Sue and Greg Ewan, and we are married 27 years.
27.
Dan and Marla Cookston, we celebrated our 50th this last summer.
Yes! 50! When did you guys celebrate your 50? When did you celebrate your 50th?
July 3rd.
July 3rd. Praise God. Man, that is so cool to hear the different ages of how long we've been married. And so some of us are in the younger phase. I would say that's me and us and the Johnsons, and then the 47s and the 50s. And I hope you see that we have a broad range of different anniversaries on stage. And I'm so glad that all the men knew how many years you've been married. That's a great kudos to you. This morning you were doing math. You were like, we're 27. Okay. All right, so we have different elders and their wives that are going to be answering different questions. And so we kind of assigned some, mainly just, again, so we're not here for a couple hours. But we really, at our last elder meeting, went through a series of questions that were some great questions, some hard questions, hopefully to encourage you guys. And so this first question is for the Brazils and the Johnsons. And so it's a really easy question, but maybe help some of us that maybe you're in a stage where we're trying to figure out life. And really a simple question was this: how do you date? So how do you date right now in your marriage? Johnsons and Brazils. Whoever wants to go first.
Do you want to go first?
You're like, we don't date. Okay, great. Moving on.
I honestly, Mike and I have always been pretty spontaneous.
Okay.
So we love to just do simple things and just hop in the car, go for a drive, get a good cup of coffee, and maybe throw some snacks in the car and just drive, because it's just him and I. We raised 4 kids, so it's just him and I, and we just talk and see all the things we want to see, but mainly just spend alone time together. And it doesn't have to be big, it doesn't have to be expensive, though he does take me to Hawaii once a year. And
nice.
yes.
Very cool.
Yeah, I think it's important, kind of starting off right now, that you don't try to compare your marriage with any of ours. And just to let you know, maybe we're pastors and we've been married a long time. It doesn't mean we've got it all figured out and that we're perfect marriages either. So we're just like you. We have to put hard work into our marriages. So just know that. We like doing intentional things. We like doing spontaneous things. It's all good. I think what's real key is making sure that you do something and you're doing something regularly. And if it's not happening on its own, then guys, I would put it on you to take the initiative and make something happen.
Yeah.
So make sure you do that. I think that keeping your marriage fresh, special, is always important as well. So think of dating. Maybe you think, hey, we're already married, we don't need to date. The dating ought not to ever end. We'll have been together, not married this whole time, but 50 years together. We dated 3 years. And so we still like to be alone together and date each other. We don't call it that. We just like the alone time. So just do something.
Yeah, that's awesome. Johnsons.
For us, dating, we have to be very intentional, I would say. We have 3 kids, 7, 4, and 2. So time
Very intentional.
Yes.
Time is of the essence.
Time is of the essence. In our family life, we don't have like grandparents around or aunts or uncles, so it's babysitters if we're going to be off on our own. So a lot of times we just intentionally make time for each other to connect and get to know each other's hearts, what's going on in each other's lives. Maybe that looks like putting the kids to bed and making a meal. We both like to cook, spending some time just in the kitchen, enjoying each other's company and talking about what's going on in our lives. So it's not always this big date and going to a restaurant and doing something really elaborate. It's just a lot of times just a simple thing, making sure we're connecting, heart to heart, when time's at a premium. So.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm a fan of all of those. I think the big dates or the little connections in the kitchen. I think if the purpose of dating is to connect, I think we can find a bunch of ways to do that. And especially our stage of life when we're tired at the end of the day, just on the weekends, maybe making a cake together or something is a great way to connect.
Cool.
Yeah.
Anyone find yourself doing date night at Home Depot like we do sometimes? Costco, yeah. Just walking, eating the snacky snacks. You're like, this is a great date. That is a date night for us. All right, moving on. This actually is a question for us, and the question was, how did you navigate unmet expectations? How did you navigate unmet expectations? And I was thinking about this one, and this may sound very cliche, but for us, really, it starts with the reality that it's an unmet expectation, and you find out about it. You don't that's obviously what makes it an unmet expectation, is because you didn't talk about it, and then you find out, and you go, oh, wow, I didn't know that's the way you felt. And so really, it starts with communication for us, and then really working through, and I'd love to hear your answer to this as well, but really working through okay, is this something that's an easy fix that I could change? Or is this something that you have placed as an expectation that in your world you're going, or my world, okay, I need to fix that. And so really, for how we've dealt unmet expectations is just a lot of talking. You know,
I think unmet expectations is uncommunicated expectations.
yeah.
And not all the time. There are sometimes, sure, that there are people in relationships that don't care about what the other one wants, what they don't. But for most time, unmet expectations is because it hasn't been talked about. And even from the very beginning of people about to get married that need to communicate about what the honeymoon is going to look like and how, oh, there are kids. I forgot kids.
There's kids in here, so you can't talk
Okay.
about that in here. You have to have a code word.
We'll call it recess.
Oh my gosh! That's recorded, and I love that. That is awesome.
But the kids are over there like, I love recess. And
Me and Mommy do too.
Dad is like, I love recess too, bud. Mom is like, you don't like recess. Not until you're married.
Oh man.
I made myself laugh on that one. Okay, focus. But everything from recess. And when you are married, like what household chores look like, and your expectations of budget, and how much to spend, and what raising kids will look like, and how many kids, everything needs to be talked about. And when something comes up where you get this feeling of, oh, that didn't go the way I wanted it to, you can either like bury it and then it turns into anger, that turns into resentment, that turns into revenge that will blow up one day, or you can go with grace and talk with the other person, not to the other person and point fingers, but decide to come together and find a solution and not just point out each other's flaws, if that makes sense.
This next one is for the Cookstons. This is Darla, Marla, and Dan. Oh, that's a good. We'll call y'all Darla. Combine your name. Danla. Okay. This is for Marla and Dan Cookston. The saying is often said, opposites attract. How have you used that to your advantage in marriage?
You're first. Oh. Oh, thank you. Well, opposite to advantage, you couldn't have started out with two people more opposite. Affluent, poor, college, no college, even told you're not suitable for college, disciplined, undisciplined, introvert, extrovert. And one of the things that we appreciated is that we were snapped together like a magnet. So the attraction was strong, and we were young, so we weren't really prepared for marriage. And so one of the things that neither of us being prepared for marriage, that in the beginning we really struggled. We struggled with, well, how is this going to work? How are we going to relate to each other? And but even though it was hard and we didn't know how to work on it, we were encouraged by the people that did say, you know, you two have a unique connection. And one of the things that we did enjoy was spending time with each other, and she was the person that I would most like to spend my time with. So now, how do we turn those opposites into our advantage?
Yeah.
So we were both adventuresome. At 18, she, with a friend, boarded a long ship and took a cruise of the Caribbean by themselves. And at 18, a friend and I went on a 6-week cross-country motorcycle trip to see the United States. So that sense of adventure we've always kept.
Very cool.
And it's kind of a foundation. And that with our different perspectives of disciplined, undisciplined, introvert, we actually found that as we were setting goals for our family, that a lot of the dreams and goals that we wanted to achieve, because of our different perspectives, we were actually able to work together to see that those were fulfilled. Like we adopted, first we backpacked, quit our jobs at 23 and 22 and backpacked through Europe for 3 months. Then
Y'all are adventurous, man.
we, in a 2.5-man tent for 3 months, yeah. So then we adopted, and when we decided to adopt from Thailand and India, they said, we don't prefer that you go, but we went anyway, so all they gave us was an address to the adoption agency and said, here, take off. So that sense of adventure was built into our relationship. And as we both looked at each other's opposites, we said, hey, let's work hard on our differences and pull together. And those adventures have just kind of really helped highlight the opposites so that we could use discipline, maybe easygoing, somebody that would shy back a little bit, then the other person could be, move forward in some of our adventures. And some of the differences I saw in Marla first: wisdom, strength, her ability to love, how cute she was. So I held on to those aspects that I saw as an anchor so that when we had our big first fight, that those differences that I knew were going to make me a better person, that was the anchor for me to get us through those big fights and the differences that were irritating us. But later on, then I realized that anchor was Jesus, that when I heard a still small voice after this big fight, like, oh, it's over. No, it's over for me. No, I'm leaving first. Then I heard a voice say, go back and reconcile.
That's good.
So
That's good. Number 4.
Oh, wait.
Oh, you have one. Okay, sorry.
sorry,
I thought he was talking for you. I was like, all right, man, he's got it. Go. Sorry, Marla.
Okay. The most significant example of how our oppositeness has been to our advantage is how it's impacted our spiritual lives. When we began, Dan was very mercy motivated. I was very much a truth seeker. If you have an imbalance of mercy, you have sloppy agape. If you have an imbalance of truth seeking, you have pharisaical tendencies. And you both tend to think you're right, and it's the right way to be. Both are very wrong in that that's not who Jesus is. He came in grace and truth.
Yeah.
And Dan and I love to discuss scripture. We love to discuss the differences and how we approach things differently and challenge each other. And that has caused us to grow and hopefully be more conformed to the image of Christ as a result of that. And I'm sorry, I have more. Ecclesiastes 4, 9 through 12 have been key marital verses, and I am going to read them. 2 are better than 1 because they have a good return for their labor. For if either falls, the one will lift up their companion. But woe to the one who falls when there is not another to lift him up. Furthermore, if 2 lie down together, they keep warm. But how can one be warm alone? And if anyone can overpower him who is alone, if any 2 can resist him, a cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. We've fought for our marriage, sometimes and our goals and our dreams, sometimes back to back, sometimes side by side, and sometimes face to face. But we only succeed when Christ is that third cord, and he is the core of that process. We needed to learn to see one another's oppositeness as not as an obstacle and not as something we wanted to change in one another, but rather to enhance our life together and to help transform each of us into Christ's image.
Very cool. Very cool. This next one's for the Ewans. This is Sue and Greg. How has God used your marriage to shape you, change you, sanctify you?
I saw this question and I said, I really want to answer it because my marriage has really changed me. And I got married later in life. I was 33 years old when I got married. And I was scared to get married because I was worried that maybe I was too messed up. And I was worried that I would mess somebody else up. And I remember we were engaged, and we were at the driving range in Magnolia in Seattle. And I kind of had a breakdown, and I just told him, I said, "This is going to be a bumpy ride. Are you sure you want to do this?" Because I wanted to give him an out. And he didn't, and he has been a strength to me and has been such a solid rock. And I so appreciate his walk with the Lord because it's really brought my walk with the Lord up. And also just in his strength, equally in his weakness, has really been such a change of heart for me as well because he's been able to be, humble and just very raw. And I think when you're really struggling in your marriage and you have somebody that's willing to be raw and real and just open, like it just makes me want to just be open. It makes me want to try. It makes me not want to throw in the towel. And so it has been such a sanctifying thing, marriage, and I just so appreciate what marriage is.
Yeah, me too, hon. I knew that day, like, I want to be one with you. I want to help you through these times. And it has been bumpy. It's been bumpier than I thought because I was messed up too. She wasn't the only one messed up. And then we both realized, wow, you're really messed up. What are we going to do now? That's where Ecclesiastes 4:12 comes in, as Marla read. A cord of three strands is not quickly broken. But it sanctified me because, wow, finally, God, I think, broke me free of at least some of my selfishness. I don't know about y'all, but, I always lived for myself. I wanted to, your fondest dreams, what did they consist of yourself? Maybe having your name in the paper and lights or statistics or trophies and this and that and the other. And finally, at a certain point, God just broke me of that and said, I'm living for her. I'm living for God, and that first means I'm living for her. Her happiness is my responsibility. It's not 50-50, or if I do this, and if you just meet me here, then we'd be fine. But no, it's like it's 100% on me, and that's what God says in Ephesians 5. We've got another question to answer, but I'll go there quickly. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her, that he might sanctify her. Christ did not wait on us. He came and found us. So Sue is the joy of my life. I won't share any more because I told her I didn't want to cry. She said, no, cry. Not going to cry.
Talking about recess and all kinds of things. And so he just winked at me. I love it. Oh, man. All right, number 5. This one's for the Hedricks. And how has God used your spouse to show you an aspect of God's character?
I'm going first? Okay. I came down to 2 main ones. God's faithfulness is reflected in Christy. When I met her, she was serving at a church doing Sunday school. And I was not a believer, but that attracted me to her faithfulness in God and how she's grown in her faith through all the years. It's always been there. Her faithfulness has never wavered. So that is a strength. And the second one is God is a comforter. And if you know Christy, you know that she's an encourager. And she just loves people and pours her heart into friends. And so that is the second character of God that I see in Christy.
Shoot, I should have gone first.
Your turn.
Just setting you up,
Your turn.
man.
Your turn, sorry.
Thanks. Okay, well, for me, the biggest one that stands out for James is provider. So, dang it. So, mostly after we had kids, so we didn't start going to a church till after Hannah, our oldest, was born. We realized we need to get plugged in. And so when we did that, when Hannah was born at, I don't know how soon, pretty quick after she was born, he got a second job so that I could stay home. I mean, I wasn't working. Well, yeah, I was working. Well, I worked until she was born. So, but he took a second job. So he worked all day in a full-time job. And then, did you work a second full-time job? I can't remember. Yeah, I think 2 full-time jobs. So he's just always, and then, even during doing that, times were lean, very lean at times. But he always provided. Our bills were paid, and even when I didn't think there was anything to pay them, he'd figure it out, or he'd come home with groceries, and I'd be like, how? And he wouldn't, it just happened. And then just fast forward different times, when he got laid off at Boeing, God provided. We had 2 years just living off unemployment, and he was going to school. And he just has that strength. He has many strengths, but and God's been a provider. I've known that, but tangibly, through my husband, he's shown that he is our ultimate provider.
Man, that is so sweet. I love that. We probably all in our marriage would probably have those moments where you went, where's the next dollar coming, right? And how God provided and provided and provided. That's wonderful, Christy. I want to move down to a question that we were going to ask the Bardens, and here is this question. Funniest thing your spouse has ever done. Funniest thing your spouse has ever done. We've gone into the weeds a little bit. Now, what's something light? What's
the memory, and I don't know the name of the game, but it's the one where you put the things in your mouth and you're supposed to try to talk with this
Chubby Bunny? Is that where you stuff marshmallows?
No,
or the
you
dental
have that.
thing?
It's the dental.
The dental thing.
Like,
Yeah, that's the one.
I have
That's
no
the
idea what
one.
you're talking about. But no.
So that, it was, obviously it's very funny because you're trying to talk and you can't talk because you have this thing in the mouth. Well, it really hit Tim's funny bone. And so he was laughing so hard as he was attempting to form these words that he started to cry, and the kids just, they couldn't take it. So anyways, he's crying and he's like drooling and everything else. It was quite humorous, yeah.
Dignified.
Yeah,
it's a big memory. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
it's a big memory.
well, just a little history to it. Anna and I met in high school, and so we graduated together. And high schools have those, most likely to succeed, blah, blah, blah. Well, I was the most wittiest.
Oh, all right.
And Anna was the most gullible.
Oh, ho, ho.
So
Tear you
as we
guys up.
say, opposites attract, it was definitely true there. So,
That's great.
and so it was great there. But I think the best was, and I think most people here know, my wife's the nicest person, and caring and understanding and always able to reach out. And we were just married a year or two, and Anna had never camped, and we had camped our whole life, so in our family. So I talked her into it. I said, we'll go up into the Sierras and have a nice week at camp, and it was in a tent in a primitive Forest Service campground with right along a creek. And so we got there and got everything set up and got the tent going. And she said, I'm kind of tired. Maybe I'm going to take a nap or something. I said, that's great. So I'm going to go down the stream here a bit and fish a little bit, and I'll be back in an hour or so. And so I did. I come back, and I've got this raging person sitting at the picnic table going, what happened to all the nice people who camp? What happened to the honest people who camp? I can't believe this. We're leaving. And I'm like, hang on, what's going on and stuff like that. Well, right before I took my nap, I put the fruit out on the table, and to let it go, and I come out and it's all gone. somebody came and took our fruit. I said, well, Anna, let me take a look here. I said, I bet it's not too far away. And sure enough, we went around the corner, and right in the bush shrub there were the 3 peaches with, little chipmunk marks, all eating on it at that point. So she did say, oh, okay, we'll give it another night or so, and go on from there. But the difference is we talk about expectations and understandings of things, but that was a fun memory from there, and
that is
then,
awesome.
And we've been able to go with that. So
That's great. Those awful people.
no, she was
Took
raging.
all of our peaches.
Yeah, she was raging at that point. So,
Yeah. We're leaving. That's awesome. We're going to switch it up and go to the Johnsons for a moment. And here's a question for you guys. Why should a Christian couple get married instead of living with each other? So kind of a hard one, help us answer that one.
Well, I think you could have a whole sermon on that question, but I think as you think about marriage, there's our culture's view of marriage, and then there's the biblical view of marriage. Culture recognizes, I think, as you think about it, 2 pillars of a relationship. As a relational pillar, just are you compatible with the person? Do you have the same interests, same hobbies? Do you enjoy that person? And then there's a physical component. But what differentiates a Christian marriage from maybe an unbelieving marriage would be the 3rd pillar, and what I think is the most important, which is entering into a covenant in front of the Lord. Standing next to your bride in front of a group of people with your heart positioned to the Lord in submission to say, we want to submit our lives to the Lord together over the rest of our lives. That's a durable commitment you can make. You can always go back to that. As you think about the other 2 pillars, the relational pillar, well, as time goes on, things change. I'm still telling the same jokes I did 10 years ago.
Yeah.
They're not as funny anymore.
They're just called dad jokes now.
Yeah. 10 years ago, I had some hair. Things have changed. My kids don't believe that I had hair.
We're on the same path.
Yeah. But when you have that 3rd pillar there, you can go through a lot. There's going to be a lot of changes in your life as you're married, or as you're in if you're not married, you're in a long-term relationship with somebody you don't have the Lord. Well, there's a lot of things that are going to change. You're going to go through hard times. You're going to go through struggles, and if you don't have that pillar, you're missing what the Lord designed for you. The Lord designed for us to be in a long-term, committed relationship to each other, with our hearts facing toward Him, submitting to Him together. And I would say, that's why.
Yeah, that's good.
That's why I'm married.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would add to that is the secular world would even recognize there are benefits to being married and in being in a more committed relationship. But even those pale a comparison to the reason why, which is because that's how God ordained it.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Got a question for the Brazils. Many couples begin to feel like roommates at certain stages of their marriage. What intentional ways can you change that, or what encouragement would you give to that couple?
That was a hard question for me, because I can honestly say I've never felt like Mike was my roommate. In all the 47 years that we were together, I've never felt like he was my roommate. He's my best friend, honestly, since I was 14 years old, the first love of my life. But I think of something that I was taught many years ago as a believer regarding marriage is a lot like a garden. And those of you that know me, I don't go out in the garden at all, but let's pretend I do, okay?
Marriage is like a garden.
Like a garden. I don't weed, I don't do any of that. But let's pretend I do, okay? Because it's a good analogy. You love your garden. You look at it, you value it, you just love it. It's beautiful, and then you go on your busy way, like me, and you just get busy, and a couple days later you look out again at your garden and you say, oh my gosh, that's just such a beautiful garden. I love that garden. But then you turn around and you go on your way, and after about a week, you've not watered it, you've not talked to it. I hear you guys talk to it. Talk to it or anything. And not here in the Pacific Northwest, but in Southern California, after a week, it'd be dead, okay? It's just gone. It's dead. So I think the important thing is to be intentional and to not just say you love it and, love looking at it, being with it, but being intentional and going out there and just watering it and loving it and actually kneeling down and spending time with it. I think that's probably...
That's sweet.
Yeah, I would say, just when I read the question and I saw the word roommate, it just didn't resonate with me. Like I don't equate with that in a marriage. It doesn't fit in a marriage if you're just roommates, because anybody can be your roommate, but your spouse is the only one that can be your spouse. And that comes to emotional intimacy, physical intimacy. There ought to be a difference between your spouse and everybody else. You're not renting a room. So yeah, it needs to be intentional. It is hard work, as I said earlier. Not hard work as in I don't want to do it or I'm tired, but you just can't stop. And I think that's what you're saying as well, is you just need to keep it fresh, keep it going. I wrote a few things down. Communication is just so important. Engage each other every day. When you stop talking, that's when you probably are becoming roommates. And if that's the case, you need to start talking. Marriage ought to be fun and enjoyable. Kathy's my best friend. We enjoy doing things together, even if it's just a car drive like we mentioned. Can be doing something obviously more substantial. Can be low cost, doesn't have to be a lot, but be in tune to each other. I think of the very first marriage, Adam and Eve, and they were put together as helpmeets. They helped each other out in life. And so if your mate needs help in an area and nobody's perfect, so you have needs, somebody has shortcomings on one side, the other one has different shortcomings. It's probably why your opposites were attracted together. But help each other out and be there for each other. If someone's not doing that great of a job, communicate and make it a good marriage. But if you're just roommates, that's indicative of a real problem, and it's not like it can't be turned around. It can. You need to start doing things right away.
Yeah, that's a great picture of the garden. I mean, because you're right, because you do all this work. Like right now, we're redoing some front part of it looks really pretty. Yeah. And after about 2 weeks, there's going to be weeds come up, and I can't just go, well, just let them grow. No, you have to pick, you have to do whatever. And that's a great picture of a marriage. You have to constantly, consistently attend to it. But you also are enjoying it. You don't do all this work and never look at it or enjoy it. That's a great picture, Kathy. I love that. Maybe that's an object illustration for you wherever you're at. Maybe you're in your 40th year of marriage, 25th year of marriage. Maybe you are kind of feeling that. Just feel like we're kind of roommates. We just talk about our schedule. We just go do this and this. And maybe that object illustration is something, okay, where do I need to intentionally push into the marriage? That's really good. I like that, Kathy. We're going to go back to the Hedgericks real quick. This question came up was, what practical ways has God made you one in marriage? What practical ways has God made you one in marriage? Almost kind of like the last question, but maybe a different take on it.
We had to think about this one for a while because when we first met, I was not a Christian. And when I became a Christian, we were not married, but we were living together. So we did it backwards. And I was 4 months into my Christian walk when we got married. So I didn't understand the concept of oneness. So, oneness is you leave your parents, and then you cleave. Well, I was about to cleave. I mean, I knew what that meant.
You're about to recess.
I knew what recess meant.
Yeah.
So, but the emotional and spiritual connection, oneness was not something that I knew about. Honestly, we struggled pretty hard because of our different backgrounds that Dan talked about. We came from different places, and so it was hard. It was hard to get that connection initially, but it changed. It changed, and it was something that was profound. And I'll let Christy finish. Go ahead.
Okay, so just a little background. We also met in high school, and we had both come from, he moved from Australia and I moved from Texas, so we literally knew nobody. Well, I mean, I came at the start of the year, so I knew some people, but had never connected with anybody. So we became best friends as well. And so we went from that to living with our parents, who neither of us had a good marriage example. So we were, when I was 20 and he was 19, we were like, I'm done. I want to be out of my parents' house, and he was the same. And so we just moved in together. What else do you do? We could not, on $3 an hour and whatever he made an hour, get our own place. So anyway, you said to finish. So, what were we talking about? Oneness? Sorry. I get distracted myself. Yeah. So,
think about that hubby of yours.
I know, sorry. So I think where we got connected is when we decided, yes, we need to find a church base. Then we started getting people in our lives that showed us what a godly marriage looked like. We were able to see those examples, and we were able to learn through church services or Sunday school classes, or just also we are much alike. We are not opposites. For the most part. And so we like to serve together. And so we did that from the beginning once we got involved in church. So I think once you start serving and start diving into the Bible even more, and then you start to understand what that means as oneness. And so I think then you just continue to grow. Like you're never it. We don't ever get there till one day, maybe in heaven. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of times, and I think sometimes we put too much emphasis on the premarital part, in the sense of like, okay, we need to meet, we need to get everything right, and then if you'll get everything right, then you go into marriage, then it'll all be fixed. And that couldn't be more further from the truth. In fact, some of us started wrong, but because it's a growth and a journey, and you're committed to each other, we're going to grow together. Some things you need to change, some things I need to change. We're intentional. Keep going back to that word intentional. Communicate. You grow and you become more one in things that you weren't one before.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, ma'am.
You made me think that because of that, because of how we did it, when we had kids, and because of the examples we didn't have in our family, we knew we wanted to be different. Yeah. And so each of our kids, when they got married, they all went through premarital counseling, and that's something we never heard of. It wasn't talked about, when we got married. And so, anyways, so it's just, we would definitely, we would be advocates of premarital counseling, and just knowing what you're going into and talking and communicating. Because, we were teenagers trying to talk and communicate prior to getting married, and then, we don't really communicate well as a teenager. Yeah. Well, I wasn't a teenager. I was an adult. I was 20, but he was a teenager.
I'm going to make a plug real quick.
Yeah.
So, Christy and I, because of the priority we have in marriages, we volunteer at Weekend to Remember every year. And so Family Life has a conference, if you haven't heard of it, and it's from 0 marriage engaged couples to 50-plus year couples. You can always learn and grow together through Christ through this conference. And so this month is a sale. It's like a buy one, get one free sale. So if you're interested, Family Life Marriage Conference in Semiahmoo every November.
With that plug, with that being said, I would say what an awesome thing that if you are in a stage of your marriage where you're going, we just need some help. We need some people to talk to. I think any couple on the stage could do just that, as well as if you're going, man, I need intentional, away from the kids, away from the in-laws, away from the job, away from something, and just spend time one-on-one with each other. Those we've been to, we can remember, and it's been amazing. It's been so good for our soul. And I hope what you've heard, we're with this wonderful folks up here. I hope what you've heard them today say over and over seems to be, we're working on it. We're intentional. It's Christ-centered. We're not perfect. We got it wrong. We got it right. We talked through this. It was tough. It was funny. And I hope that you hear all of those things that are supposed to be a part of marriage, because our marriages are a very sanctifying thing. They're meant to grow us towards Christ. And it takes work, and it takes hard effort, and blood, sweat, and tears. And sometimes you get it wrong, and then when you get it right, you get to have recess. And it's a really fun time. And I'm going to keep using that for now till I die, which is the best thing I've ever heard in my life. Would you guys do me a favor and give our wonderful elders and pastors a hand this morning? Man. We're going to invite the team to come back up and sing us one last song just as we leave today. But I want to ask you to bow your heads with me, and let's just pray right now over this wonderful thing called marriage and asking God to bless your marriages as well. So, Lord God, thank you so much for these wonderful elders, pastors, and their wives. That, Lord, you have blessed this church with overseers that love you, they're selfless, that aren't perfect. They don't even pretend to be perfect. They're open about the things that have been hard, the things that have been great, the things that have been wonderful. And so, Lord God, I ask that you would bless our elders and pastors and their wife, that you'd bless them. As they are models and examples of you, Jesus Christ, we ask that you would bless them and grow them. For folks that are here at Camano Chapel, or for anyone that's watching on YouTube right now, Lord, I pray that you would bless their marriage. But that they would be, and I love that example of what Kathy said, that they would treat their marriage like a garden, to tend to it, to work on it, to enjoy it, to look at it, to talk about it. And then sometimes it's getting and picking the weeds out. It's getting this ready, getting that planted, as a lifelong endeavor of us to model and show you Jesus, to have enjoyment with each other. Lord, thank you for this discussion today. In Jesus' name we pray.